Hello and welcome. I am Exit Light, and this is my podcast. Today, with me is my partner in crime, my BFF, Rob. How are you, Rob?
I'm okay, thank you, Tracy. How are you?
I'm okay. I was just telling Rob how I was before we started the recording.
I think we should just leave it there.
Poor Rob. Poor
People
Rob.
don't want to know.
They don't want to know.
Believe me.
Rob just went got a toothbrush and some bleach. Wash his eyes. Anyway, today we are doing our third podcast about the Bridgewater Triangle, and I want to tell you guys, I am learning all the things to be able to do a live podcast, so bear with me, because I'm not an engineer or a producer, so I am learning all the things. I bought a new laptop and microphone and everything, and I'm ready as soon as my brain soaks in all the information. So bear with me, please. It won't be long, and we'll be able to do a live podcast again. Also, I know what the sex of my new grandchild is, but it won't be announced until this week, and so I'm just going to tell you guys that there's a 100% chance that it will be a boy or a girl. It's one of those. What do you think, Rob?
I think it's 50% chance it's it's either a boy or a girl.
It's not 50% chance it's a boy or a girl.
Well, yeah, there's only the two.
Well, that's why it's 100% chance.
Well, okay. Maybe you do things different in the UK.
As opposed to puppies and kittens. It's 100% chance I'll have puppies or kittens. No, whatever. Okay. Also, if you guys are on a laptop or a PC by any small chance, on my homepage is a link that YouTube has put up to my PayPal. So if you would like to donate and contribute towards the excellence of this program, that would be so welcomed. It really would be. And if you are not subscribed and you would like to be, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Stick around and it'll get better. And no, if you would subscribe, and if you would like to give this, oh God, Rob, if you'd like to give this video a thumbs up, that'd be great too.
Yep.
Even better. And if you'd like to be notified of when my content goes live, and so far, I don't know why you would be, go ahead and click that bell. And we'll notify you. It'll be a great. And go ahead and leave comments below, too. We like comments. I try to respond to everybody. I try to. Okay, Rob, what are we talking about in today's podcast?
The Bridgewater Triangle and UFOs.
UFOs. Do you believe in UFOs, Rob?
You know what I did, Jace.
Well, I'm just asking you for the people.
The people, yes.
The people who are listening.
We have both had our own experiences of UFOs.
Yes.
And
so we both believe in UFOs.
And I've watched those films. Independence Day.
Oh, yes.
So,
isn't that a documentary?
Yeah, documentary. Yeah. Will Smith.
Yes. Okay, I've seen that documentary as well. I've also seen the documentary with the guy who builds potatoes out of a mountain out of potatoes.
Hey? Oh, yeah, Empire.
Something kind.
Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
It's the fourth kind.
It's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, it's the fourth kind. Oh.
No, it's not. You're thinking that movie, The Fourth Kind.
Close
But you
Encounters of
Close Encounters
Well,
of
it's
the
the
Third
third or
Kind.
fourth kind. I've seen that as well.
Yes. Oh my God, help me. Anyway,
And Ancient Aliens. I'm all over that.
well, if it's on TV, it has to be true.
Exactly.
I saw one in my own backyard, and I believe myself. So, okay, Rob, do you want to start off, Rob, or we're gonna
Yeah.
add some other stuff about other than UFOs too. We're gonna add a couple of other stuff that has to do with the area because we're gonna go into hauntings on our next podcast, but there are things that don't fit in either category. So I am going to talk about a couple more things other than UFOs for this podcast. Keep in mind that there is a show coming out about the Bridgewater Triangle, and it's supposed to be
Yeah.
coming out this year, I believe.
Yeah.
So that'll be pretty exciting, I think.
Mm.
I think I don't want to move there.
No.
Good.
New England, New Jersey area.
Yeah, I think I'm good. All
Yeah.
right. Go ahead and delight us with your story, Rob.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
I'm so ready.
Once upon a time, a long, long time ago. Since as early as the 1908. Now I know that you're going to come back with me in a minute and say 17 this and 17 that,
16 something, yes.
16 something, but
Mm-hmm.
just
I'll bear with you.
Yeah. Since as early as 1908, there have been reports of strange lights in the sky around the whole of the Bridgewater Triangle, the whole of the area. Glowing balls of light, ghost lights. Ghost lights, for people that don't know, are basically little balls of light that seem to have an intelligence of their own. A lot of people have said that people have seen swamp gas, but everybody seems to have a different description of what swamp gas is supposed to look like. So how you know it's swamp gas, I don't know. And little balls of dancing light doesn't seem to me that would be swamp gas. But there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And now, obviously, traces all over this. On Halloween in 1908, there were reports of a glowing lantern in the sky. And you have to bear in mind, in 1908, what would their point of reference be? So that's probably why they said lantern.
Right.
Which I found to be, that was one of the first reported incidents of an unidentified flying object. Because obviously there are UFOs. It always gets me that people still use the word UFO, unidentified flying object. But then when people are talking about sort of extraterrestrials and things like that, it's biological entities and all sorts of different variations of. But we're talking basically about UFOs tonight or today.
Mm-hmm.
So Tracy, tell us about 1600s and the 1700s. Come on, make me look like a liar.
I'm not going to make you look like a liar. Okay. The first documented UFO sighting in America dates back to 1639 when a Massachusetts Bay Colony co-founder and governor, John Winthrop, recorded a second-hand observation of unidentified objects over the sky in Boston. His diary entry of March 1st of that year, he wrote this: a sober, discreet man named James Everell was rowing a boat up the muddy river at night when he saw a great light in the sky. Winthrop reports that when it stood still, it flamed up and it was about 3 yards square. When it ran, it was contracted into the figure of a swine. It ran as swift as an arrow towards Charleston or Charlestown. And so up and down about 2 or 3 hours. By the time the lights moved away, Everell and his boatmates had arrived 1 mile upstream, and they had no memory of that entire trip other than watching the lights. They didn't remember how they had gotten a mile upstream. And in the 1808 sighting, Cynthia Everett was a 24-year-old Massachusetts woman working as a school teacher in Camden, Maine, and recorded in her diary is a somewhat similar account. Her entry on July 22nd reads, "At 10 o'clock, I saw a very strange appearance. It was a light which proceeded from the east. At the first sight, I thought it was a meteor, but from its motion, I soon perceived it was not. It seemed to dart at first as quickly as light, and appeared to be in the atmosphere, but lowered toward the ground and kept on at an equal distance, sometimes ascending and sometimes descending." So, I mean, I don't know what a sober, discreet man that sees pigs. I don't know what that's supposed to be in the 1600s. But apparently, the governor thought that he was not crazy, and believed him because of the kind of person he was to not be telling a lie, and wrote it down in his diary. And with the woman, she was a 24-year-old school teacher, and probably not inclined to make stories up like that for fear of, women didn't really have rights or value. So she put herself at risk at losing her position and being a crazy old maid, even at 24, by writing down her story. So
yeah,
I feel like those are reputable accounts.
Oh.
Do you have another one you want to talk about?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm just a bit achy this morning. Then, in 1979, 2 reporters from the... I've always wanted to ask this question to an American. WHDH was a TV station. Why do you have such long names for your TV stations? WHDH.
Well,
it seems weird.
Well, usually the ones that are long like that are radio stations, like KJRB. Usually those are radio stations. Usually, although KDXY, what it does is it signifies, some of the letters in there signify where the area is that they're located. And I don't know how, but that's one of the reasons for the letters being so long. But we don't really well, I guess we don't, like, let's say that was what's it called again?
WHDH.
WHDH. Well, if that is on Channel 4 on our TV, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Channel 4.
Right.
We're not going to say that it's like where I moved from. They had like a KDXLY or something like that. And we didn't call it that. We call it Channel 3.
Right, okay.
So, in my hometown, there was KREM, called it Channel 2. And why I can remember that is strange. But, yeah, it's just, like, there's lots of Ks, lots of Ws, and somehow those signify where they are.
Okay, thank you. That's
You're very welcome.
Right. So in 1979, 2 reporters from WHDH, Steve Sabracia. Now he's got a really, really strange spelt surname. SBRACCIA. Sabracia. I'm presuming that's how you pronounce it. If you're related to Steve or you are Steve, I apologise because I probably got that wrong.
Okay. Hold on a second. Give me that spelling again here a second. I have a hard time imagining words in my head. I don't know what it is. Okay, say it again.
SBRA.
Okay.
CCIA. This could be Sabrachia.
I
Or Sabrasia.
I don't know.
So
I'm gonna just go with whatever you said.
Yeah.
Sabratia seems right.
Yeah, sounds that way.
Yeah.
And excuse me, ex-Air Force vet Jerry Lopez witnessed a UFO as large as 2 football pitches, side by side. It looked like, and after speaking to Tracy the other day and finding out the rules, it looks like a baseball home plate with lights on it.
Yes, Rob and I had a whole discussion about the rules of baseball. This is what we talk about, people.
And rules of cricket, but
yes,
you do it, yeah. Sorry. Oh no. My life come to this. All these years and it's come to this. Anyway.
We talk about other things too, but we don't want to talk about those.
So it looked like a baseball plate with lights on it, and it blanked out the clouds over the next. So you could get, obviously, it was black on a black sky, but it was blacker than the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next couple of weeks, lots more people came forward, and the local newspaper took everybody's impression of what they'd seen, and they did an artist mock-up in the newspaper, and it did look like a baseball home plate, which is, how would you describe a baseball home plate shape? It's sort of a square with a point on one side, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of a square with a point. Yeah, like a triangle, but not.
Yeah.
Like a square, but no.
Yes.
I think that if you live in the United States, you know what a home plate looks like. If you're not in the United States, yeah, it's a square with a point on the top. I just go Google that if you're unsure.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, we have Google now in the UK. So yeah, everybody put their heads together, and the paper came up with the same shape. And actually, there is a documentary that's on Amazon Prime, and the man makes a little Steve Sabrasia makes a little model of what he's seen with it, and he even puts a little light on it as well. Obviously, he's got too much time on his hands, but anyway, he shows you coming towards the camera what he saw, and they seem pretty genuine. And Jerry Lopez was an ex-Air Force vet, so something else that me and Tracy have been talking about as well. He was, so to speak, an expert witness, because obviously he was used to seeing different types of aircraft, and he said it definitely wasn't one of ours.
Right. Yes, he did. And I really enjoy this pair's story because they worked for a newspaper and were reporters.
Yeah.
They didn't want to come out and say what they had seen. They were driving somewhere. I think it was for a story, or was it for just like were they going to a barbecue or something? A dog track, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So they saw this thing in the sky and could not believe what they were seeing. And they were both seeing it, but they didn't tell anybody because of their jobs. They thought we're going to look ridiculous. But pretty soon, all these reports started coming in, and they had to report on the story. And then they ended up being part of the story they were reporting on because they had to say, we saw this too. And these sightings are valid. We saw it, and they had made drawings that were the same as the drawings that the other witnesses were coming and saying that they had seen. So it's I think they feel very reliable.
Strongly. Yeah.
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 I feel like these are also reliable witnesses because they're reluctant witnesses who didn't want to, like we talked about before, coming out and saying something. You know, I've seen a UFO or whatever. It can be job jeopardizing if you're in a position of, you know, being a respected member of society. And, you know, if you're a police officer who was seeing those floating lights or whatever, or the big dog in the street with the red eyes, and you have to say, he had to call the police and say, I saw this thing. And so, you know, you're going to have to, and like these men, they thought we can't tell anybody that. But then they ended up doing it, and then they ended up talking about it in the documentary, and I really liked their story because they were reluctant witnesses, but very much believable when they talk about it, I thought.
In the documentary, they do mention that there are a lot of people who do come forward after seeing lights and different things, the different UFOs, and don't want to leave their name, which to me makes it a little bit more credible because they're not glory hunters. They just want to report what they've seen. So, yeah.
Well, when you saw UFOs, did you tell anybody? Anybody?
No, I didn't tell anyone for a long time. I think you were probably one of the first people that I told.
Yeah, I didn't either. Of course, if anybody wants to go back and look into my playlists, I did tell my brother because he was living with me, and I ran through my apartment, grabbed him off the couch, and pulled him outside to show him. And he wanted to call the authorities immediately, and I was like, nope. And I didn't tell anybody because I thought people would think I was crazy.
Cuckoo.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So, and it was ironic because the day before that, a friend of mine had said that they thought that they had seen a stealth spacecraft. Remember when the stealth came out like 100 years ago? And and we lived by an Air Force base, so he thought it was a stealth spacecraft when in reality it was probably, I know what I saw wasn't a stealth spacecraft. But if you don't believe in that type of thing, or you don't want to tell yourself that was a UFO, you kind of make up a reason. It was a stealth. Yeah, the thing about those is just you're not supposed to see them.
Well, I didn't even realise at the time when I saw mine that the area that I'd seen it in was really well known for people reporting UFOs.
Yeah, it's called Dove. What's it called?
Dove Stones Reservoir.
Dove Stones, yes.
There's a lot of reports of UFOs around there, and I didn't know that. It wasn't.
Rob's story is also on my playlist.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes. It was one of the very first. I think it was the very first thing you ever did for me.
It was, yeah. All them years ago.
That's how you became friends with me, Rob.
I know.
What a lucky day for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah, whatever.
We'll leave that there.
It's getting heavier and heavier, our friendship now lately, with me giving you my daily reports. Okay, so my next one is the East Mountain Radar Base in 1961. During the Cold War, the U.S. Air Force maintained a radar base on Vermont's 3,438-foot East Mountain, named the North Concord Air Force Station. This remote facility started operating in 1956. At the height of its operations, about 175 men worked at the station. They lived in a little, they lived in a little Quonset hut village, complete with a store, a bowling alley, and a theater about a mile down the mountain. I think that sounds lovely. In 1961, according to military reports, a strange object appeared in the skies above East Mountain and remained visible for about 18 minutes. Given that the events in... Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Given that the events involving Barney and Betty Hill, which is another sighting we're going to talk about, happened just a short time later, some say that this was the same UFO. That base has been closed since 1963 and now sits abandoned. I would love to go there. So I guess that will lead us right into Betty and Barney Hill, which is one of the most famous UFO sightings in United States history. There have been books written and movies written. There have been television shows based on this UFO sighting and reported abduction. There's a sign in the area that says this: Betty and Barney Hill incident. On the night of September 19th through 20th, 1961, Portsmouth, New Hampshire couple Betty and Barney Hill experienced a close encounter with an unidentified flying object and 2 hours of lost time while driving south on Route 3 near Lincoln. They filed an official Air Force Project Blue Book report of a brightly lit, cigar-shaped aircraft the next day, but were not public with their story until it was leaked in the Boston Traveler in 1965, which had to have meant that the military must have leaked it. This was the first widely reported UFO abduction report in the United States. So, Betty and Barney, the first widely publicized report of an alien abduction in the United States was that of Betty and Barney Hill, Portsmouth, New Hampshire couple.
Back.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Claimed the New Hampshire couple claimed to have been taken by extraterrestrials near Franconia Notch on the night of September 19th, 1961. According to their account, the Hills saw a bright light in the sky while driving home at about 10:30 p.m. Betty at first thought it was a shooting star, but then it changed direction and moved upward. They stopped the car for a closer look, which, by the way, is exactly what I did. And going through my brain was, do not be Betty and Barney Hill, you dumbo. Move your car. So, hold on a second. They stopped the car for a closer look, and through binoculars, they saw an odd-shaped craft flashing multicolored lights. As they drove away, the craft, which they estimated was about at least 40 feet long, followed them. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I would say that that's probably the size of the aircraft I saw. And as I was driving away, it followed me too. Quiet, quiet, quiet. It was just a bare kind of noise that was could have sounded like wind. Don't make fun of me.
Why did they have binoculars?
Well, people carry binoculars in their cars.
Do they?
Yeah, my husband does.
Okay. I'm glad you said that before. I was going to make my next joke, but there you go.
There you go. Well, I don't know. So you can see things. That's my guess. Anyway, as they drove away, the craft, which they estimated was 40 feet long, blah, 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 followed them, eventually descending so low over their 1957 Chevy that they stopped the car. That was their first mistake. That was once it's hoovering above you. Don't stop.
Hoovering.
Hovering.
Hovering.
Hovering. No, we're not vacuuming. They weren't Well, they were vacuumed up, though. They were. Anyway, are you making fun of me?
What did the aliens say? What were you looking at? Hey, what are you looking at?
That's what they did. They were like, what the hell are those things in your hand? What are you staring at? You never seen a UFO before? Yeah. So they were like, would you like to meet? Would you like to have lunch? Would you like to be probed? They were just being kind. Anyway, they stopped the car again using binoculars. I don't know why you would do that. Barney saw humanoid figures in black uniforms through the ship's windows. How is this possible? If it was right over there. Okay.
They're only a foot away. I don't know why I need binoculars.
And aren't they under it? So do they have windows on the bottom of the aircraft? Anyway, whatever. The Hills drove away at a high speed. That's what I did too, over the speed bumps in my parking lot. Anyway, I was Dukes of Hazzarding it through my parking lot. They heard some buzzing and beeping sounds, experienced a tingling sensation, and blacked out. Some people pay for that.
Yeah. And then they got probed.
Yes.
It's a night out for me.
You call that the good old days. When they regained consciousness, they had traveled nearly 35 miles south, although they didn't recall the journey. Later, under hypnosis, the Hills described being taken onto the ship, where they were separated and examined. Their story was adapted by journalist John G. Fuller into the best-selling 1966 book, The Interrupted Journey, and the 1975 television movie, The UFO Incident, and many, many, many more things. So, I guess my advice to you people is don't carry binoculars.
Yeah.
I should go tell my husband real quick.
Aliens
I'll be right back.
do not like to be watched.
Aliens hate binoculars. Like, you can look at me, just do not look at me through binoculars.
Yeah.
I haven't put my face on.
But I like the interview with Betty years later, when she said that they were doing examinations on her, and they were hurting, so she said stop, so they stopped. And then she said, she asked the alien, where have you come from? And he got down a star chart, or he drew a star chart on I don't know what it was on. And
dry erase board?
On what, sorry?
A dry erase board?
Yeah, I don't know what it was on. Obviously, I would have said.
You know what a dry erase board is?
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
It's one of those white boards you use a pen on, and you write on it, and then you take a eraser and you wipe it off, like they have at school.
Well, they were aliens. They could have had that kind of technology. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know, do we?
A chalkboard.
Chalkboard.
And he showed her, and the alien showed her where they came from.
Yeah.
The aliens spoke English.
They certainly did. Yeah.
Okay.
That reminds me of a joke, that actually. The Americans spent $2 million to design a pen that could write in zero gravity. The Russians took a pencil. Oh God, the old ones are the best.
You're what makes that joke funny. It's the way you say it. It's that British accent.
Yes, well, I am British, yeah, for my sins.
Pretty soon, you're going to be an aisle all unto yourself.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, lucky you sons of bitches. Anyway.
We're becoming the 53rd state.
We don't where'd you get the other 2 states?
I don't know how many states there are. Let me count them.
There's 50.
50. It's a 50. We're getting the 50. Well, we've got Wales and Scotland as well.
Oh, that's true.
And Northern Ireland.
Bring those with you,
yeah.
please. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you're going to be the 51st through the 3rd.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting rid of the Queen. She's moving to Canada with Harry.
I don't think she is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to put the Tower of London back into use for Andrew, though.
Well.
Anyway.
Yes, well. Yeah. Talk about how to stop a conversation in these tracks. Throwing Prince Andrew, that'll just do it every time.
Let's talk about Prince Andrew. Let's not. Anyway, oh my lord. I never really paid much attention to the Betty and Barney Hill thing in particular. Like, I didn't know. I never saw an interview that they did.
I don't think he ever gave an interview, but the funny thing was that she described this set of planets, and at the time, they'd not discovered them. Oh. But now they have.
Oh.
And she was right. She was spot on.
Really?
The way that the alien supposedly told her. This set of planets, it's got a name, but I can't remember what it is. But since science has moved on to a point where we can actually see other universities, other universities. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Universes, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we can prove now that she either was really, really lucky and she had a really good guess, or
she'd been probed.
She'd been probed, yeah.
I wonder if they ever did an autopsy on her. I mean, like when she died, not the aliens. Not the aliens.
Oh my
gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
She thought they were quite nice. They were quite pleasant when she did remember.
She said please and thank you.
Barney was shaking like a shitting dog in the bangor. He was scared to death, but she was okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Maybe it's different. Getting probed. A male, female probe, I don't know.
I think that's a different podcast. Probably. You go first. Report back.
I don't even know what the podcast is about anymore.
Well, so let me move it along a little bit. The Exeter incident in 1965. On September 3rd, 1965, one of the most famous UFO events of all time occurred in Exeter, New Hampshire. As with the Hill incident, this was also turned into a 1966 bestseller by John G. Fuller called Incident at Exeter. That was brilliant. He's got away with words, doesn't he? Fuller reports that a policeman patrolling Route 101 just after midnight stopped to check on a woman parked beside the road. The breathless woman claimed that a flying object with red flashing lights had been chasing her. A few hours later, an 18-year-old man arrived at the Exeter police station and claimed that while hitchhiking along Route 150, he'd seen the light of 5 bright lights over a house about 100 feet from where he stood. He said the lights moved over a large field and disappeared and reappeared behind the tree line several times. After driving to the site with the young man, the same policeman witnessed the lights, as did another officer who arrived a short time later. Over the weeks that followed, authorities received 60 reports of UFO sightings near Exeter. Debunkers have claimed that the described light patterns would match those of an Air Force KC-97 refueling plane. But officially, the Exeter sightings remain a mystery. Why would they be refueling a plane right over there for long enough for somebody to walk to the police station and then drive back? And that just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no need to refuel.
Yeah.
Overland. There's plenty of airports that could have landed out and refueled.
Exactly right.
That's a refueling the UFO, but
maybe they were. Okay, do you have another one you want to tell us about?
I don't know.
Okay, I do. All right, I will. Okay, Harold Trudell in 1967. At midday on June 10th, 1967, Harold Trudell pulled to the side of West Rantham Road near Woonsocket, Rhode Island. East Woonsocket, to be exact. The 29-year-old Woonsocket, yeah.
Woonsocket, okay. Is that like a Native American sort of word?
It seems like it must be.
Right, okay.
The 29-year-old man reputedly had seen unidentified objects in the area before, and on this day, he was determined to document them. According to his account, he didn't have to wait long, as a metallic dome-shaped object soon approached. As the UFO hovered over the power lines, Trudell snapped pictures for about 5 minutes. He captured 7 images, which would become some of the most iconic UFO photos of their day, but which sure look like they're a bit hokey now. They do look very, very, very hokey now. And I don't know how he could have edited film back in 1967.
Just describe them to me, because I think I know which ones you're talking about.
They look like a child's wooden spinning toy. That they used to have these spinning toys where you would take something out of the top and like pull it up and push it down, pull it up and push it down.
Oh, yeah.
And the toy would spin. It looks like that. Like it was spray painted with something metallic.
And it was in the air?
Yeah, it was in the air above the power lines. I don't know.
Yeah, but they couldn't. There's no way that could be manipulated in that
1967.
1967.
And I'm sure there's been plenty of people since then who have tried to figure out how he did manipulate it. So, if nobody's come forward and said that they figured it out, then I don't know. It does look hokey. I mean, this looks like somebody. I don't know. If this is a real UFO, they were like really in the basic stages of UFO creation. I don't know. The bottom has there's a piece on the bottom. It's round, so that I don't know what they would do with it. They couldn't land it. That's why it looks like one of those spinning things. And the top has one too. So I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he would have manipulated the photo, but it feels like there must have been some way. It just doesn't look real. I don't know. So moving right along. The Allagash abductions. In August 1976, according to their own accounts, 4 Massachusetts college students went canoeing on Maine's Allagash Wilderness Waterway and saw an unidentified object in the sky. They described the sighting to a ranger the next day, but weren't taken seriously. It was suggested, in fact, that they had seen a searchlight that was being used to celebrate the grand opening of a hardware store in Millinocket. Do you guys use searchlights to do that?
Yeah, now and again, yeah.
Yeah. The students continued their trip and did not talk much about their encounter until years later, when one of them, Jim Weiner, started having seizures. Weiner claimed to have had visions of humanoid beings levitating above his bed, poking him with needles. Under hypnosis, all 4 men described small gray aliens taking them aboard a spacecraft and performing medical examinations on them. The 1993 book, The Allagash Abductions, made momentary media darlings out of these 4, who appeared on the Joan Rivers Show and Unsolved Mysteries. In 2016, however, one of the men, Charlie Rack, said that although the group really did see unidentified flying objects twice during their canoe trip, the rest of the story had been made up. His former friends dispute that. They say he's lying. So, I don't know.
Who do you believe?
I don't know. I think I'd be more inclined to believe the guy who said that it was made up, but then again, and then the 3 would deny it because they wouldn't want to look like, assholes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have no idea. The next one is, and this is my last one for this part, is the Newton lights in 1987. On May 26, 1987, commercial airline pilot Randy Eating took a nighttime walk near his home in Newtown, Connecticut. He often studied the skies when he walked, trying to identify passing airplanes. At around 9:45, he observed some orange and red lights approaching from the west. He got his binoculars and first mistake, and called his neighbors to come outside. Eating said that the UFO passed over Interstate 84. Cars pulled over to watch. And indeed, between 9:30 and 10:15 p.m., more than 200 people phoned police to report a UFO. The object displayed a semicircular pattern of very bright, multicolored lights. They got a picture of it, by the way. And, it looks like a real one. Several drivers reported that their cars lost power as the lights passed by. About 15 minutes later, calls started coming in from New Milford, about 14 miles north, alerting authorities that the lights, reported by many to be connected to an object larger than a football field, were hovering, Tracy, were hovering there. The lights eventually vanished, but the mystery still remains. And I want to point out that in 2019, in that area, there were 183 UFO sightings.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a whole lot. 183 out of 365 days in 1 year. So that's a lot of UFO sightings. And it's weird because like I said, these people calling in and reporting them, that I was not about that. I didn't want to be on some hokey TV show and talking about my probing. You know what I mean? That's the stuff I saved to talk to Rob about.
It's funny because we had we've got this neighborhood sort of website thing that people, every area's got one. So, and this isn't a joke, by the way, Chase. This is a true story.
Okay.
Someone put on there the other night, probably a week ago now, did such a time of 6:30 or 7:00 last night. Did anybody go out and see? Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. It's early in the morning here. Did anyone go out and see the lights that were in the sky? These just weird. I didn't see them, but lots of people said that they went outside and saw the lights, and there was this weird, slow-moving set of lights going over the area, and it looked like it was quite big because obviously you couldn't see any stars behind as this thing was moving.
Right.
Well, yeah, a lot of people saw it.
Am I boring you, Rob?
No, I'm sorry, everyone. It's early in the morning here.
Okay, so a few dates to keep in mind with the Bridgewater Triangle. 1760, the first date for the very first documented UFO report, although I think there was one before that, like I said, 1639. And that was in 1760, they say, was the first documented UFO report in the entire world, anywhere ever. So that's interesting. It was sighted directly over the Bridgewater Triangle. Then in 1908, local papers reported another UFO sighting. Then in 1968, several witnesses allegedly saw a large orb floating in the trees in the woods of Rehoboth. Then in the 1970s, UFO sightings were frequently reported in the area. In fact, in 1976, two UFOs were seen by witnesses to land along Route 44 in Taunton. A Bridgewater policeman also reported seeing a UFO in 1994 in the town of Raynham. So, lots of UFO activity there.
Yeah.
That's just... So, other things I would like to talk about for this area is the fact that there have been several cases of children gone missing, never to be seen again in the area. We're going to talk about one particular story. Multiple children have gone missing in the Bridgewater Triangle, and a few were never found. One story has a happier ending, though. Little Alden Johnson was playing with his sister when suddenly witnesses nearby heard a horrifying scream. When they went to see what was wrong, the boy was gone. Hundreds of volunteers, up to 300, they said, and police searched for the boy, but there was no trace of him anywhere. Within minutes, 24 hours later, this boy, who was, I believe, he was 3, I think, he walked out of the woods, and he had a bundle of mud and twigs in his hand. He walked up to a rescuer and asked if they would like to buy some flowers. He seemed healthy, and he reported that he had no memory of the last 24 hours. He didn't remember anything from after where he had been 24 hours ago before the screams. The only thing he did remember was he felt like he really, really needed to go pick flowers because it would make him and his family rich. No one knew where he went or how he went unharmed in the swamp overnight. So that is scary to me.
Yeah, very.
There's been several murders. There's been the idea that there are serial killers in this area. There have been several deaths that have been accredited to the occult. In 2014, two women were found in the woods near the border of Brockton and Massachusetts. In Abington, Massachusetts, many of their body parts had been severed, including feet, calves, part of an arm. The cadavers were then placed on top of one another in a wood pile, and there were signs of ritualistic activities. These women, let me go to my other page. These women were Ashley Milet, who was 20 years old, and Linda Schufelt, who was 50 years old. Both of them had issues with some drug use. Both of them had gone into drug rehabs. And one of them, the 50-year-old woman, was now clean and going to college to be a drug rehab counselor. So I think it's interesting that they both have in common that they had gone to rehabs, maybe even the same rehab. So it feels like, I mean, I'm not a police detective, but I do think that's where we should start.
Yeah.
They, like I said, were on a pile of wood. They said that the 50-year-old woman had been there much longer than the 20-year-old woman. Her body was decomposed and mostly bones when they found the 20-year-old Ashley Milet's body. They've found the bodies of prostitutes. Of course, serial killers go for prostitutes because they're the least likely to be reported missing. And if they are reported missing, they're sort of written off because of their occupation, which I guess makes them less than in the eyes of some people. Prostitutes in general. I mean, serial killers in general. And then I want to talk about something else. Rob, do you have anything you want to say while I'm looking for this next one?
There was the going back to while you're looking for whatever it is you're looking for. Do you remember on the documentary the lady who she was at one side of the swamp and she saw she described it as a fire.
Yes.
On the other side of the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
So she thought that it would be maybe young people having a party or mm-hmm. some kind of get together.
Right.
And she made her way across. I think she rowed a boat across. As she got closer and closer to where the fire was, it got smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
She got to the other side of the swamp and there was no fire, there was no ashes. It was as if there hadn't been a fire. And she got back in her boat and she rowed back across the swamp to the other side where she was originally.
Right.
And when she got back there, the fire was going again.
Yeah.
I thought that was very, very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the swamp is particularly haunted place, as we talked about in our last podcast, given the fact that area was, a burial area before the glacier melted, and even after that for a while. But so in addition to strange creatures and haunted, mysterious locales, Freetown State Forest also hosts its fair share of brutal murders, unsolved crimes, and alleged cult activity. The area has long been a reported haven for cultists and Satanists. The late 1970s and 1980s in particular saw a spike in sinister cult activities in the forest. with police finding various pieces of evidence that supported the existence of such activities, including an actual underground bunker that was apparently used to carry out various cult rituals and possibly even human sacrifices. One famous story comes from the 1980s when a bog worker complained of trespassers converging on his shack when they were dressed in black robes. When the man contacted the police, wouldn't that be scary?
Very, yeah.
Yeah, when the man contacted the police, investigators found a large pentagram in the ground, as well as a design made up of carefully placed stones. The pentagram was taken away and the stones dispersed, but when the authorities visited the scene the following day, both the pentagram and the stone configurations were reported to be back to precisely where they had been the day before when they had been removed. Various cattle mutilations reported from the woods, including the butchering of a cow in the woods and a group of calves found horrifically mutilated in a clearing, both from 1998, were connected to the work of satanic cults performing dark rituals in the area. One of the most famous crimes committed in the Freetown State Forest is the murder of Mary Lou Aruda in 1978. And it's funny because I just watched a documentary about this a few weeks ago. On September 8th, 1978, Mary Lou Aruda was seen riding her bicycle near her home in Raynham, Massachusetts. I believe I want to say she was 12 years old. And she wanted to go, okay, I believe this is the scenario. Her sister had gone to a park, and they had both left together. It was the first time she was being allowed to go to the park, that her parents didn't go. She forgot something at home. She told her sister to go ahead and go on. She turned around, she went home to get it, and then she was never seen again. She never showed up at the park. So she was seen riding her bicycle near her home at around 4 p.m. At 4:30 p.m., the girl's bicycle was found abandoned on the side of the road with a skid mark from a car and a cigarette right beside it. Several witnesses would come forward to report that they had seen a green car with a black racing stripe speeding away from the scene at around the same time as the girl is thought to have gone missing. The police were able to gain enough insight into the driver's appearance to put together a sketch of the suspect, and then they placed wanted posters and plastered them across the area. An intensive police search was also launched into the area of Aruda's last known whereabouts, and her decomposing body was finally found on November 11th, 1978, tied to a tree within the Freetown State Forest. It was determined that the girl had still been alive when her beaten and battered body had been tied to the tree in a standing position, and that's when she lost consciousness. The weight of her body then caused stress on her neck, which caused her to asphyxiate. It was determined that she had died the same day that she had gone missing. Authorities have finally tracked down a man by the name of James Cater. He was a donut maker who owned a car that matched the description, a bright green 1976 Opel with a black racing stripe. He also smoked cigarettes, the exact same brand that had been found at the crime scene, and had been in trouble with the law before. In the ensuing trial, Cater denied having anything to do with the murder of Mary Lou Aruda, although he did eventually become found guilty for a separate 1968 incident in which he was convicted of assault with attempt to do another kind of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, and the kidnapping of a woman from Andover, Massachusetts. He was sentenced to life in prison. But to this day, he denies having anything to do with the Aruda case, which I don't know. I mean, he's already in prison for life, so it wouldn't matter if he did admit it. But she was a child, so maybe he wouldn't because of that. You know, even in prison they have. Yeah. You know. Another mysterious crime revolves around a place known as the Ice Shack. It's a small building constructed for the purpose of logging during the 1940s. It has long been determined that cult activities and drug dealing had been carried out in the structure, but one series of murders connected to the Ice Shack stands out in particular. That a string of vicious killings by a pimp, an alleged satanic cult leader by the name of Carl Drew, Drew was known for using his Satanism to keep his prostitutes in line, threatening them with human sacrifice or worse if they stepped out of line. On October 13th, 1979, the brutally mutilated corpse of a prostitute, Donna Levesque, was found, and 2 witnesses, also prostitutes. I don't know why we have that matters. Karen Marsden, who was 20 years old, and Robin Murphy, who was 18, explained later that it had been a ritual killing carried out by Drew in the ice shack. Marsden had allegedly been repulsed by violence and sought to break free from the cult. It did not work out well for her. On February 8th, she would be tortured and killed in an alleged satanic sacrifice. Her corpse was then brutalized afterwards. I don't need to go on over what happened to that because it was just it was just the guy received a life sentence and yuck. So they ask a question at the end of this: what causes the forest to attract such violence and suffering? What is it about this place that causes so many weird phenomena to congregate here? There are those who would point to the area's dark history of pain and loss. It is said that the native spirits of the forest were angered by the stealing of this land and the massacres and the atrocities that took place here, thereby cursing the forest until the land returns to its rightful owners, the Wampanoag people.
Yeah.
They call it a vortex, this area.
I think someone like yourself wouldn't like to go there. I think because the way you pick up stuff and the way that you can, whether it's being sensitive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that you would probably really struggle in this sort of area with all this kind of strange and bloody past.
Yeah, I think that I have some sort of empath thing, and I think it would be very. I think that would be very difficult, but I would respectfully love to see the area in a respectful manner because of the history of the native people and what they went through. I would be interested in just standing there and feeling that.
Yeah.
Because that to me is what touches me a lot is the history of some place like that.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be interesting. I wouldn't want to. I honestly wouldn't want to do something like a ghost hunt or anything like that because I feel like it would be disrespectful to whatever it is, to the land and the history of the land. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm interested. Yeah. I'll let other people do it. I'll watch it. You know, that's fine. But I would feel strange about it. Like I wouldn't go to the Alamo, for instance, and feel okay doing some sort of a ghost hunt.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be because it was a graveyard. And the same thing for this property. It's a graveyard to thousands of people at those areas, and you know, I don't know. Also, they have a lake in that area that's not very deep, and people drown in it every single year.
8 foot at its deepest.
Yeah, and yet people are drowning in it all the time.
Yeah.
8 feet. Man, if I knew that I wasn't a 100% perfect swimmer, I wouldn't put my foot in that lake. 8 feet? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't swim in that lake.
It's like I think we were talking about this the other week when we did the other one. It's like Loch Ness.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't swim in Loch Ness, whether I believed in the monster or not.
Right.
Because it would just be my luck that day, at that time, that Nessie would be feeling a little bit peckish.
What, you wouldn't feel lucky then? Like, oh my God, as soon as I get myself out of this thing's mouth, I'm going to tell everybody.
If that was it chomping down on me, no, I wouldn't feel lucky at all. Well, God, I'm so lucky. So lucky
I'll
to
be
be.
there. I'll be there to photograph it, though. You'll be famous afterwards. You would be so excited. I'll contact you. Tell you
Yeah.
all about it.
You're so lucky to be attacked by this great white shark. You know.
So lucky.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm really enjoying this series. Are you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I can't sort of make my mind. I'm struggling to make my mind up whether some of it is so. It's just so far out there that when you're talking about ritual sacrifice and stuff like that, and how this it fascinates me that you can have all that went on with the Native Americans,
Yeah.
and still to this day, this area has still got this mystique around it.
Dark.
Obviously, the Native Americans were able to show this area respect.
Yeah.
And we don't show it respect.
Yes.
I think that is the way I would look at it.
Yes. Yeah, they lived there and thrived there.
Yeah. And I think that we obviously don't do that. We have to reap the consequences of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like we talked about earlier on about the dove stones, and there's a lot. I'd been going to dove stones a long time before I saw what I saw, and it's funny. It's like an onion, peeling back an onion. Once you start to look into a place, you realise that there's lots and lots of UFO reports. Obviously, there's the thing with the Moors murderers as well in that area, and then there's other stuff that witches and it just amazes me that does the place attract these people, or do these people attract? Do you know what I mean? Which way, like chicken or the egg in it, which comes first? Yeah. It's just
the Moors murders are close to the dove stones.
Yeah, that's on Saddleworth Moor. Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's a pub there where they used to go after. Because everybody used to call it the crime view. I think it's some White Lion. It's called the White Lion, I think. And yeah, they used to go in and have a drink and a bite to eat after they'd been up on the moors and buried the bodies.
Oh my goodness.
So.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I completely believe that the land can attract people that, you know, can definitely affect people. Like we talked about, like the Zach Bagans' house where he had it destroyed, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think it's the land has an imprint on it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about the hauntings on our next podcast, so that'll be interesting.
We might even be live.
Yes, I am working on it hard. I had Rob on. I had my laptop, my cell phone, and my iPad. I had one earbud hooked up into my laptop so I could talk into my iPad so I could talk to Rob. One into my computer so I could listen to what was happening on the computer, and trying to learn it with Rob, talking on the phone to Maya. So I'm working on learning it so we can be an independent. Look at me, Rob. I'm going to become a producer. Up. I know. Aren't you proud? All right, everybody. Well, if you would, please give this video a thumbs up. It does a lot of good for my channel. I see that there's a lot of people who come back, but they don't register. Yes, I can see that in my analytics. Please go ahead and take the time to go what am I trying to say? Subscribe to me. Go ahead. It's painless. And thank you for coming, though, and listening to this and sharing these videos with your friends. And I really appreciate it. If you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, click that bell. And for those of you who are on your phone or an iPad or something, I'll put a link below that leads to my new PayPal link that YouTube gave me. So thank you for that. And if you feel so inclined, I will mention you on our next podcast and tell you how much I appreciate you. Around here, we pay in love.
That's it.
No. Rob is sick and tired of it.
Can I just have a second before we go?
Please do.
I just wanted to say to everybody at the Paranormal Hub, thank you for all your positive feedback from the podcasts and the stuff in the groups. And like Tracy said, if you do like the content, then obviously subscribe and give us a thumbs up.
Yes, I'd like to second that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Rob, for sharing our information.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, well, I guess it's time for us to say goodnight.
Good morning.
Or good morning, whatever it may be. Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the morning here for me. So what is it, 8 o'clock in the morning there?
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bye.
Bye.